Hello everyone, all 22 and a few film review giving you guys the next episode of Draft Wraps, my draft class analysis series where we dive deep into all 32 classes, letting you guys know how I feel about every pick, according to my big board, who's left on the board positionally, is it a team need, is it a scheme fit, we'll be going into the paths for starting for every pick, as well as kind of paths for immediate roles, if I see that for the player. So if you want to learn more about the Giants class that we're going to be talking about today, or anything about any of the other 31 classes in the NFL, make sure you go through the channel, subscribe, stick around as we finish out this series. Only 2 more episodes after this one. Like I said, we're going to be talking about the Giants today. My number 3 overall class. They come in with an A grade, a 3.3975 numerical grade. That numerical grade coming from an equation that I made for you guys, so you guys could have a more concrete feel about how I feel about all of these classes. Stacking the same letter grades, comparing your favorite teams, all that good stuff. Just a little extra fun thing we could come back to, see where I was right, see where I was wrong, see where I can learn. It's more about the analysis per pick and, the grades per pick. Like I said, just a little extra fun thing. But still, an A grade for me, a very, very good class. Like I said, my number 3 overall class. They start off with Abdul Carter, an edge out of Penn State. Then go Jackson Dart, a quarterback out of Ole Miss. Darius Alexander, an IDL out of Toledo. Cam Scatabo, a running back out of Arizona State. Marcus Bowe, a guard out of Purdue. Thomas Fidone, a tight end out of Nebraska. And Corey Black, a corner out of Oklahoma State. A very, very good class in my opinion. They didn't have a ton of picks in this class, partially due to the trade up for Jackson Dart. But I think they hit all of their needs extremely well. All of the positions I really wanted them to go after, I think they hit. Going after the IDL position. Quarterback was definitely in need. I think they hit it in the right way, but we'll dive more into kind of how I feel about their trade up when we talk about Jackson Dart. I really wish they hit corner a little bit earlier, but I really like them attacking IDL and guard specifically. Love that for them. Let's start out with Abdul Carter, an edge out of Penn State, taken at number 3. I thought this was a great pick. I thought this definitely was the pick after Cam Ward and Travis Hunter are off the board. And it doesn't really seem like any team was trying to trade up for a quarterback in this class. Abdul Carter, my best player on the board, number 2 on my big board, taken at number 3. So definitely good in true value. He was my top rated edge, so positionally, he is by far the best edge in my opinion. Someone I thought who was worthy of a top 5 type of pick in, the average draft class. If you take 10 classes over a 10-year span and you put Abdul Carter in every single one of those, he's worthy of a top 5 pick, in more than half of those classes, in my opinion. That's kind of how I kind of reason that out. But, you may question, they have Kayvon Thibodeau, they have Brian Burns there already. Adding Abdul Carter in gives you the best 3-deep kind of edge room, in my opinion, in the league. Brian Burns, very, very, very good edge rusher. Kayvon Thibodeau, a very solid number 2 guy in his own right. Not the highest upside number 1 type of guy, but if he's in your room, you're definitely not worried about it. And then adding Abdul Carter in, who has the potential to just be a top 5 edge rusher in terms of sack production and, quarterback pressure production, that kind of stuff. Absolutely insane player. Some of the best get off you're ever going to see from an edge in college. You've heard about Abdul Carter all throughout this process up to this point. It's nothing new, but this is an uber athlete off the edge with a lot of versatility in his game. He played off-ball at Penn State, transitioned to edge just this last season, his first year as an edge. And so, when you talk about third down situations, you might question, how are we going to get all these guys on the field? 2-minute defense scenarios, heavy pass situations, third down, you can have Abdul Carter line up over the A or line up off-ball and blitz while having, Kayvon and Brian Burns coming off the edge. Maybe you put Kayvon on a 4-eye and you put Abdul on a wide 9, Brian Burns on the other side, and you're looping and stunting these guys around. They can get very, very versatile with this group. It is going to be a nightmare for quarterbacks when they get into third down scenarios. So I absolutely love the pick for them. I think it is honestly great. A 6'3", 250-pound edge, going to be 22 in his rookie season. Didn't put up a RAS score, didn't really test. Didn't really need to. He had the draft pedigree going throughout this class. This guy is an uber athlete at the edge position. Would have been an uber athlete at the off-ball linebacker position as well. Bulks up to 250. which is definitely not terrible weight for 6'3". He's not a complete full-sized edge, but he still has nice arm length. And, for being 6'3", 250, he's decently stout. He can get better against the run. He is such a nice splash playmaker off the weak side and a very smart player playing off the edge for it being his first year off the edge. There is times he will take himself out of a gap, out of position, but a lot of the times he is diving in, he is knifing in, he has the athleticism and the IQ to be able to make those plays. Now, in terms of true base, he is going to get moved off the ball. He definitely can get stronger, being a point of attack run defender, but that's not necessarily his game, and he is going to be sheltered around a thick interior defensive line that should help him, especially because he is in such a nice edge room. They're not going to have to rely on him, every single down as a run defender. He can definitely learn and grow in that sense. Had 12 sacks, 9 hurries, 23 and a half TFLs, 68 tackles, 4 PBUs, and 2 forced fumbles in his first year as an edge rusher. This guy is so nuanced for his first year edge rushing. A lot of these guys we've talked about so far in this class don't have a lot of counter moves or don't have a nuanced tool belt. He's in his first year. He has a cross chop. He has a spin. He knows how to ghost. He has a solid bull. He knows how to counter off of his moves effectively. He knows how to run the hoop well and dip. He's got great bend. He knows how to pull his hips through when trying to stack around the edge. He already knows how to play edge super efficiently. It is so incredible. And the fact that it was his first year, the sky's the limit for this kid. Absolutely a great pick for them, in my opinion. Was a 2024 first-team All-American and Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year, a 2-time first-team Big Ten selection, one as an off-ball linebacker, one as an edge. So you can get very, very versatile with this player, and with this kind of very deep edge room that they have now. Was also a 2022 freshman All-American as a linebacker. This guy is a good football player, man. A very, very good pick in my opinion. Gets an A for me, not an A+, because it's not like it's incredible value for him. He is a top 2 player in this class and he got him at 3. It was most likely going to happen to you where you were getting either Travis Hunter or a Carter because Cam Ward was definitely going 1. It's not like it's an absolute steal according to what happened on the board. So it gets an A very, very nice pick in my opinion. Their next pick, they go Jackson Dart, quarterback out of Ole Miss, with the 25th pick of the first round, trading over $34.99 and a third rounder next year over to the Texans for pick 25. Now, I talked about Jackson Dart in this class as not being someone who I view worthy of a first round selection, and I would have really not liked it if he was taken in the top 10. Now, he was 104 on my big board. He was my 6th overall quarterback. He was the second one taken off the board. So in terms of true overall value, it's not my favorite pick. I didn't absolutely love it, but I like them trading up for him late in this class a lot better than them, trading up towards the early or middle part of this class. He is the type of quarterback that you want to trade up for. When you're trading up late in the first round and you're taking a quarterback, they're not going to have the kind of immediate expectations of a first round starter, of someone who's going to come in and change the organization immediately. Lamar Jackson is kind of like the perfect example of a recent example of this, where the Ravens trade up and take him at 32. He wasn't expected to start year 1. They rolled out with Joe Flacco. Now Joe Flacco gets hurt, Lamar comes in and plays pretty well, leads them to, I think it was a 5-1 or a 6-1 record after Joe went down. So they're going to continue developing him and go through the lumps and bumps of his early years, and now he's an absolutely exceptional player because he had those traits that you look for, the athleticism, the arm talent, things you can't teach players. Jackson Dart is kind of one of those guys where I didn't think he was ready to come in day 1, but he has the types of traits you want to bet on. He has a very great arm. He's got definitely a nice size for a quarterback at 6'2", 223. He's got a sturdy build. He is actually very, very athletic and pretty mobile. You can use him in the design run game and use his legs as part of the offense. He has the traits you want to bet on. So let him come into this room, sit for a year or 2. I like the fact that he is probably not going to start this year. They have Jameis Winston, they have Russell Wilson on 1-year deals. I really expect one of those 2 guys to start this year, and that's perfect for Jackson Dart. I really don't think you should be trying to play him in year 1. He really does need to sit and learn how to read NFL defenses. That is kind of the main reason I was not a Jackson Dart believer was the ability to read coverages at an NFL level was definitely not there. Progressions were definitely slowed by safety rotation. He was a one read type guy, and if that one read wasn't there, he's either sprinting around or he's looking all over the place, where when he is getting kind of pressured and forced on the move, he doesn't see down the field incredibly well. Doesn't have the best touch to his game either. He definitely has a nice arm, okay accuracy. The ball will get lost over the middle at times. Not a bad player, though. It's, like I said, has the traits you want to bet on with the size, with the arm, with the athleticism, but not someone you want to trust like coming in and starting day one. So in terms of trading up for a guy, if they're going to trade up for anyone at this spot, I probably want it to be Shedeur or Jackson. Probably not trading up for a Tyler Shough as someone who you think can be a potential top 10 guy or a potential game changer if you develop him right away. Jalen Milroe, maybe has the highest upside of all these guys, but someone I'm still not really comfortable trading up in the first round to grab. So I don't hate it in that sense. It still gets a B for me. It's not a bad pick, but, it depends how they treat him. It depends how they put the bodies around him and build up this offensive line, build up this receiving room. If they can get Russell Wilson to maybe stick around one more year and really develop this guy. Now, he is also going to an offense that I think is going to suit him well. Brian Daboll does really well with mobile quarterbacks. You think of what he's done with Daniel Jones, what he did with Tyrod Taylor. He's been able to win games with these guys and compete. If anyone's going to get Jackson Dart to kind of play well in a system, it's probably going to be Brian Daboll. So I definitely like him coming to this organization. It's not a bad pick. I had a little bit of a trouble not bringing up to a B+, but, the amount you had to move for him, the fact I really would have liked you kind of waiting till the second maybe to do this kind of brings it down for me. But it's not a bad pick at all, just not the best one in my opinion. Again, it's 6'2", 223-pound quarterback, going to be 22 in his rookie season. Didn't apply for Erasmus, he didn't have the testing, but he can definitely get on the move. This is an athletic type of guy. Had 32 total touchdowns and 6 interceptions this last season, 4,279 yards passing, 69.2% completion percentage, which is not bad. 10.8 yards per attempt, which led the FPS's very nice yards per attempt, was due to the fact that he did have Trey Harris, who was an absolute go ball demon for him. This guy was either throwing goes or throwing hitches or throwing RPOs. That was really how he was getting the ball out. If he had to sit in the pocket and actually kind of progress through his reads, it got really, really scary. And that's kind of when he started running around and scrambling into sacks and making poor throws. He needs time to develop. Was a 2020 Gatorade National Player of the Year in high school, a 2024 first-team SEC selection for Ole Miss. Led the FBS and yards per attempt, like I said, with 10.8, which is very nice. Set school records at Ole Miss for career yards in passing with 10,617. Was a 3-year starter at Ole Miss. Spent his freshman year over at USC, where he did not start in his freshman year. And then Lincoln Riley comes over, brings over Caleb Williams. So I can't 100% blame him for wanting to transfer out of that situation. He probably wasn't going to start over Caleb Williams. Has a very nice career over at Ole Miss, just getting better every year. And seeing that kind of continuous progression, you definitely love to see. This is a guy with a lot of upside. Like I said, a type of guy you want to trade back up for as a potential kind of game changer for your team long term. Not in year one, but if you can develop him right, this can be a franchise guy for you. Their next pick, they go Darius Alexander, an IDL out of Toledo, with the 65th pick, the first pick of the 3rd round. No trade compensation on this one. I really, really like this pick for the Giants, honestly. It gets an A+ for me. I was a big Darius Alexander fan, was 42 on my big board, taken at 65, so this was a very, very good value in terms of true kind of big board value. Someone who I really thought should have went in the 2nd round and shouldn't have fell out of the 2nd round. I do understand it because of the age, because he is coming out of Toledo, but in terms of true talent, man, this guy should have went in the 2nd round 100% to me. Was my 6th IDL on the board, was the 10th one taken off the board. So in terms of positional value, I think this is absolutely exceptional value. Darius Alexander is such a fun player to watch when it's all there. Someone who is very, very inconsistent in terms of technical pad level. Sometimes he comes off the ball just really high and sometimes a little bit slow. And when that happens, it's not very pretty for him. But when it's all put together, when he's firing out of the ball, when he recognizes and can diagnose the play, it's absolutely beautiful, man. This guy is athletic. He's got get off. He's got the strength to be able to take on double teams, split double teams, take on one-on-one blocks. He has real power in the pass rush game when he can keep that pad level down and use his leverage. Very nice bull, very nice stab. Knows how to pull off of his bull, knows how to counter off of his stab. Flashes the ability to clear his hips at times. It's very inconsistent. But if you can develop him in that, it just adds another kind of facet to his tool belt. He can become a true 3-down threat next to Dexter Lawrence, and I absolutely love that for them. When you talk about their room, outside of Dexter Lawrence, they have Raheem Nunez-Roches. They have some guys they've taken in the 5th and the 7th recently. Not a ton of really high upside bodies. They also bring Roy Robertson-Harrison and Jeremiah Ledbetter, who definitely don't move the needle for you. This is a guy who long-term can give you a real threat next to Dexter Lawrence if you can develop him. Gives you real long-term, stability in that room, which I definitely like for them and wanted them to go after earlier than later. The 6'4", 305-pound interior lineman has some real length on the inside, some real athleticism and power. Going to be 25 in his rookie season. Like I said, coming out of a school like Toledo at the age of 25, he probably isn't going to be regarded as the kind of, most flashy or highest upside type guy at that age, but has a lot of athleticism. You see the 9.17 RAS, has a lot of technical skill that if you can really develop and hone into a down-to-down consistent basis, man, this is a good player. I loved Darius Alexander's tape a lot. Very, very fun player to watch. Had 3.5 sacks in this last season, 2 hurries, 7.5 TFLs, 40 tackles, 4 PBUs, and 1 interception on the season. That he also, I'm pretty sure, returned for a touchdown in overtime against Pittsburgh, I think it was, something like that. Showing off the athleticism there, man. This guy can definitely move. A 2023 third-team max selection and a 2024 second-team max selection in his 2 years starting for Toledo. This is a very fun player. I gave it an A+. Wanted them to target IDL, get someone for, the long term next to Dexter Lawrence to really take some pressure off him in the interior. Adding a guy like this, if he can develop into an interior rusher, Dexter Lawrence, who is arguably the best interior rusher in the league, with a guy who's developing next to him, who's going to get more one-on-one situations, because of Brian Burns on the outside, because of Kayvon Thibodeau, because of Abdul Carter, because of Dexter Lawrence. He's just coming into a great situation for him to really kind of hone his ability and come into his own for this team. I absolutely loved it for them. Their next pick, they go Cam Scatabo, a running back out of Arizona State. With the 105th pick, the 3rd pick of the 4th round. Again, no trade compensation on this one. I absolutely love the value on this. Cam Scatabo was a top 75 player on my big board, was a top 10 running back to me, someone who I thought was worth going somewhere in the late 2nd round. I would understand if he fell to the 3rd because of the athleticism. But man, this guy 100% should have went earlier than this, in my opinion. Doesn't get an I love it pick because he is coming to more of a crowded room. Tyrone Tracy is their lead back. They really like how they produced for him last year. They have Devin Singletary there still. They brought Eric Gray in the 5th round, I believe it was last year or 2 years ago. I'm kind of spacing on that one. So he is going to have to compete for snaps in this room. It's not going to be given to him, especially coming out of the 4th round. But man, this was such a good running back. Just such a good running back. Knows how to play the position, especially for his athleticism. Like I said, isn't a very athletic guy, but he knows how to make up for that. He has elite contact balance and an elite motor. This guy refuses to be taken down. Pinballs off of everybody because he is so short and thick. He's got a very low center of gravity, and you can't arm wrap around this guy. You have to take him on head on, and he makes that really hard for players. Now, like I said, he isn't the fastest player, but he does have very light feet and very nice burst. He sets defenders up on poor angles where they're forced to arm wrap against him, or, they aren't able to really profile tackle him. And that's where that elite contact balance comes into play, where he just runs through arm tackles, bounces off of people, pinballs between people, and just keeps chugging forward, does not fall down, does not stumble or trip. This guy is such a good early down type of guy. Not going to be the best for you in pass pro, and not going to be the highest upside receiver, but he can come down with the football. You're not going to be worried about giving him outlet passes or screens, but more of an early down type of guy. But in early downs, short yardage situations, hard to say I would rather have anyone else in this class than Cam Scatabo. He is such a smart, physical player who knows how to work around his athleticism. We've seen running backs with less athleticism be able to produce very well in the NFL. Case in point, James Robinson, when he was coming out for Jacksonville as a UDFA. Cam Scatabo, I'm not worried about it. Like I said, he is going to have to work for reps in this room. They do have other guys that they've brought in and have produced for them recently. It's not going to be given to him, but he is good enough to really compete and earn an RB2 or an RB3 job for this team. Probably not going to be a true 3-down bell cow, top 10 back in his career, but this can be a very, very good running back in a committee and someone that you really lean on with most of your carries. Really, really like Cam Scatabo. A 5'9.5", 219-pound runner. This guy is absolutely thick. Going to be 23 in his rookie season. Put up a 7.45 RAS. Like I said, doesn't have the best straight line speed, but he has very nice feet. He's honestly decently shifty for his size. Not the most shifty guy in the world in terms of, jump cuts and stuff like that, but he can stick his leg in the ground and make a pretty quick cut. He's got pretty light feet. He can move around. It's not like he's totally inept and he's just a straight line runner that isn't fast. He is creative for his athleticism. Had 1,711 yards, 21 touchdowns, 5.8 yards per carry on the season. Had 45 receptions on 52 targets. They absolutely got him involved in this offense. Now, absolute receiving production from the running back room doesn't always mean how good they are or isn't going to project how good they are as a true receiving threat in the NFL. A lot more kind of design reads and touches and outlet passes and RPOs, kind of stuff like that. But, he produced. This guy was such a good player with the ball in his hands and after contact. Had 605 receiving yards on those 45 receptions, 3 touchdowns receiving, and 3 fumbles on the season. You'd like to see those fumble numbers come down for him. But if I'm not wrong, I can't believe I'm blanking on this, but I'm pretty sure he had 2 of those in one game. Might have been. But I'm not 100% worried about it, especially because he is going to be, taking less of a workload at the next level. A 2024 first-team All-American, first-team Big 12 selection, and the Peach Bowl offensive MVP. Set his single-season record for Arizona State with 1,711 rushing yards, a 2-year starter at Arizona State before spending 3 years at Sacramento State. Produced at every single level he's been at, been a dog at every level he's been at, went up to Arizona State, was a dog throughout the regular season, carried his team in the playoffs. This is such a good player, man. I'm telling you. Probably isn't going to be a top 5, top 10 type of back, but a very, very, very nice early down guy and a very good option in a committee. Their next pick, they go Marcus Bowe, a guard out of Purdue, with the 154th pick, the 18th pick of the 5th round. I absolutely loved this pick for them. Absolutely loved this pick for them, honestly. Someone who I profiled more as a guard, but has right tackle flexibility, as he did play right tackle during this last season at Purdue. Absolute motor and get off in this guy is very, very raw in terms of pass protection, marrying his hands with his feet. Doesn't have the best anchor in the world, but this dude loves to get after it, loves to move people, loves to fly all over the line, doesn't have terrible eyes and recognition either. This guy is a very, very high kind of upside type of guard with some nice athleticism. Fits this line very well. I think they really do need some interior help. They do have Greg Van Roten, and they do bring in John Runyon from Green Bay, who I do think takes one of those guard spots. But if Greg Van Roten isn't kind of the signing you wanted him to be, or if Jermaine Illuminor gets hurt at right tackle or is kind of struggling, this is someone who you can kind of fit in to either of those spots or try to mold in either one of those two spots. Falls this far, kind of in the 5th, due to injury concerns, but this is a guy who I thought was a 3rd round type pick. A very, very exceptional value in my opinion. Absolutely loved it for this team. A 6'4", 303-pound guard, going to be 22 during his rookie season. Didn't put up a RAS as he didn't have the testing measurables, but this guy definitely moves good on tape. I'm not worried about his athleticism. On 385 pass block snaps this season, allowed 3 sacks, 1 hit, and 21 hurries, which is not great in terms of hurries, but a 3-year starter for Purdue at right guard and right tackle, has line flexibility. I think he profiles better as a guard, but this line just kind of needs better depth and more upside overall, so mold him into kind of whatever position you want, and I think in a year or two, this is going to be a very solid starter for you, and someone that could come in and compete for a job day one, especially if we get into the regular season and that line's underperforming. Their next pick, they go Thomas Fidone II, a tight end out of Nebraska with the 219th pick, the 3rd pick of the 7th round. I absolutely love this value. It gets and I love it. Now he is coming into a little bit of a crowded room. They took Theo Johnson last year in the 4th. They have Daniel Bellinger, who's got a lot of meaningful snaps over the last few years for them. They have Chris Manhertz, who's more of a blocking specialist and always finds his way onto rosters because he is a blocking specialist. They also bring in Greg Dulcich from Denver, who has gotten some snaps in the league over the last few years. So he is going to have to compete with a lot of bodies, but this is an absolute exceptional value. Someone who should have went on maybe late day 2, but especially early day 3, if not for the injury concerns. This guy is a very exceptional route runner and receiving threat at the tight end position. Definitely worth a lot more than a 7th. And it's great for this team too, because maybe you stash him on a PUP list or an IR list, and he isn't going to have to take up a roster spot, and then you bring him on the field later in the season or next year, and he can just kind of flourish in kind of a big Y type of role, or a tight end 2 role where he's playing more of an H-back, sliding out, getting into the flat, running crossers, just being kind of an outlet type guy that you let go to town. With his yak ability, he is a very, very nice athlete. Really like Thomas Fidone. Like I said, should have went a lot earlier than this if it wasn't for the injury concerns. A 6'5", 243-pound tight end, not the biggest guy in the world. Like I said, not a true inline Y type guy, but a big slot role, very nice receiver, can get out on the move for you and, hit some reach blocks, at least get into position and wall off. It's not like he has, liability type strength, but it is not the main facet of his game. But someone you can use, on delay routes, on crossers, get into the flat, just allow his yak ability, his athleticism to go to work. Going to be 23 in his rookie season, put up a 9.49 RAS. This guy can definitely move, can definitely jump at the tight end position. Really big fan of his game. Had 36 receptions on 47 targets this last year for Nebraska for 373 yards, 10.4 yards per catch. Was a 2-year starter for Nebraska. A very solid tight end for them over those years. Like I said, not a true inline Y, but someone who is definitely worth this value. Gets and I love it just because it is an exceptional value. Is going to have an uphill battle if they do try to make him fit the 53-man this year, but with the injury concerns, maybe there's some medicals that keep him off the field this year, so we'll see how that goes. Next pick, they go Corey Black, a cornerback out of Oklahoma State, with the 246th pick, the 30th pick of the 7th round. I absolutely like this for them. Isn't an I love it pick? I think this is kind of around the value you were going to get a Corey Black, but in terms of position and, the type of guy you want to bet on in the 7th round, this is a great pick in my opinion. I 100% wanted them to go corner. Wish they did it a little bit earlier. Not a huge glaring need, but definitely a spot you can get more depth in and upgrade at. They bring in Paulson Adebo, who I definitely really like. They have Deonte Banks, who they got in the first round 2 years ago, who I really liked coming out. You hope he can continue to develop and step more into a really good starter for them. They have Drew Phillips, who they took in the 3rd round last year. Not a bad nickel piece, but not a true outside guy. They also have Cordell Flott, more of a slot type guy, not a true outside type guy, someone who doesn't really move the needle for you. I'm also forgetting a 6th round pick they had taken, I believe it was 1 or 2 years ago. Again, someone who doesn't really move the needle for you, and outside of that, not really anyone in this room that is a real lock to make this roster. You need more outside depth. You need more kind of long-term outside high development capability. There's not a ton of dudes in this room and no one you're really excited about. Corey Black at least gives you someone to be excited about for the long term. At 6'1", 192, he is closer to a full-sized corner with some nice length. Ran in the 4.3s. This dude can absolutely fly. Not the best agility measurables, but an athlete you're fine with on the outside and someone who can absolutely burn. Had 3 interceptions, 9 PBUs, and that only a 77.2 passer rating allowed when targeting coverage this last season. For the 7th round, that is absolutely exceptional type of production. 3 interceptions, 9 PBUs is very nice. Also a 3-year starter for Oklahoma State. So when we're talking about the 30th pick of the 7th round, they need more outside depth. You're getting a guy who's full-sized, runs in the 4.3s, had pretty nice ball production, especially for 7th round, and was a 3-year starter, has a lot of starting experience. This is the type of guy you want to bet on in the 7th. A high kind of ceiling type guy. There is a real reason he is in the 7th. It's not like he's going to step in day one and be a surefire elite type of guy, or even in 1 or 2 years, he's going to be a really good player for them. Maybe 2 or 3 years down the line, if you can develop this guy, he has the traits of a starting corner. If you can develop him and get him to be able to a playable level, excellent pick this far back in the 7th round. I absolutely like it a lot for them. Like I said, not and I love it. It's not like it's exceptional value, but it was a position I wanted them to target in this class. It is the type of traits you want to bet on at this pick. So I like it for them. Again, this was the Giants class, a very, very good class in my opinion. My number 3 overall class gets an A, getting pretty close to an A+, not super duper close. If the Jackson Dart value was a little bit better, it would have been a little bit closer to an A+. That mainly holds it back, but still a very good class overall. Like I said, my number 3 overall class, so I absolutely loved it. Love Abdul Carter, was a big Darius Alexander fan. Cam Scatabo is great value in the 4th. Marcus Mabo is exceptional value in the 5th. Thomas Fidone, exceptional value for the 7th. And then Corey Black, a high kind of developmental type upside, tradesy, athletic corner. So a very nice class. If you really enjoyed me rambling about the Giants for this long, then, let me know down below as well if you have anything about criticisms or constructive criticisms. You want to talk ball, you have any questions, anything like that, talk to me down below. I love talking with you guys, no matter what it's about. I love interacting with you guys. If you enjoyed, leave a like. Even if you don't, I really do appreciate you getting to this point in the video. These have been doing a lot better than I thought they would be, so I really do appreciate it. If you are liking, if you are commenting, if you are sharing them, it does a lot for me, and the algorithm. So thank you guys. I really do hope you enjoyed, and I hope you have a great day.